Can you imagine being in the middle of Australia at 5 a.m., gearing up for a day of filming with George Miller, Chris Hemsworth, and Anya Taylor-Joy? I have no idea how that would make you feel, but our guest today certainly knows the feeling. I met Jason in 2016 on a football field at the Beijing Film Academy in China. Right from the start, he was very friendly and we quickly became football buddies. A few years later, out of all our football friends, he's the one who has gained the most experience working on major Hollywood movies all around the globe. Today, he shares his experience working on Furiosa as a key member of the assistant directing team, known in the industry as the AD team. So I was curious about the school and what made you choose BFA. Like, did you consider going to a film school in Australia at some point, or was it obvious for you to choose to go for BFA?
My uncle, my dad's brother, he was a graduate from BFA in the animation department, and he obviously gave me a good story about the whole life at BFA. And my dad was a alumni of the Central Academy of Fine Arts in Beijing. So both of them were graduated from Beijing, and they were like, oh, there's this new international program. It's just started, and they're looking to get some, international students with other perspectives outside of China. Would you be interested? And I'm like, oh, of course, I've been in my comfort zone in Australia literally my whole life. And then, right out of high school, I was like 17 years old, coming into 18. I was like, you know what? It is a chance for me to try something different, see my family background's culture, getting to know more people and improving my Chinese, because at that time my Mandarin wasn't as smooth as it is now. And also it's the film school itself is very prestigious in China. And one of their big selling point was that there was a Hollywood Reporter article back in 2013 where they say BFA was like the number 3 film school in the world. And that got me very interested. I'm like, wow, this is something I can definitely, give it a shot. And I did. And what do you know, I got in, and there goes my 4 years. Pretty much right after high school, I think I was like 18. And then when I graduated 2017. So and you came in which year? 2016?
16, yeah. So I think when I came, you were doing your final year, or you had like maybe 1 or 2 years left.
My last year, I wasn't a BFA that much anymore, because it was literally just go out and film your graduation. But yeah, I do remember hanging out a lot in my third year with your group.
Yeah, I didn't know you had arrived so early, like at 18. It's pretty young.
I did consider film school in Australia as well, but again, it was the family history in China, and I was like, you know what, it's time for me to see something else. And who knows, I still have time after I graduate maybe to go back to Australia for like a master's degree, or USA.
Yeah, and it sounds like these years, I would say between 2012 to 20, was kind of like a golden era for BFA as a school, and also as when it comes to shooting a film in Beijing. I feel like these years it was just so, everything was possible. Like, you could just find people willing to make films very easily. You could find good equipment, you could find locations. Like, it was kind of a very specific time in history where making films was very accessible.
And that's one of the good things like BFA offered us, was they were open with us giving out as many ideas as possible that's different. They wanted something that's unique. They wanted a different perspective of telling stories. And I feel, and my class definitely had coming from all walks of life, had all these interesting ideas. And then when it was time to shoot them, it was really rewarding, because you're like, wow, this is something I learned from another culture. This is how they, this is how they shoot. This is how they interpret. I want to tell their stories from this perspective. And I thought that was very interesting.
Okay, that's actually a question I wanted to ask you now. It's like the most valuable lessons that you learned from BFA, either in school, in your classes, or while making films there.
I think at the beginning it was very simple. It was teamwork, because I was a pretty shy kid coming out of high school, and I wasn't that able to work efficiently with everyone because I was the shy kid, you know. I wasn't the one always putting my hand up and giving my ideas and stuff. So BFA really made sure that you worked together really well as a team. No, regardless of whether it's international students or local students, because I feel like one of the good things with me is, with my advantage of able to speak Mandarin, I was able to make a lot of friends like in the local department, and when it came time to collaborate, it was very it was easier, I feel like, compared to my some of my students some of my classmates who are still learning Chinese, and most of the communication is done through English. I feel like I have this slight advantage when it comes to Mandarin. And I think BFA also like taught me the basics, like all the basics really well, because I came into BFA like I wasn't sure how to edit a film properly, but it really does teach you all the basics of how to get a short going, very importantly, how to pitch a story. Like, I didn't know that pitching a story to potential investors was like a really crucial thing in our industry, you know, and I was able to do that, to learn it efficiently. So it really does help me when I want to do my short films in terms of pitching.
And I wanted to ask you also, like you mentioned, your dad was an artist and someone who was getting more and more views and reputation in China. So I was wondering, like, how the dialogue happened between the two of you. Like, was it an easy thing for you to tell him that you wanted to pursue film, or did you have to negotiate with him, or was he supporting you in this decision?
Well, my love for making movies, like it was the cliche story of my dad had a very old school Sony camera when I was 10, and he gave it to me to film stuff, and I was like, you know what, I want to make a story. So what I did was, like, I got my cousins and my brother, and at that time I was a huge fan of like the mafia and action movies. So I was like recreating certain scenes, and I was getting my brother and my rest of my family to all play a role in it. And at that time, there wasn't like a script around. It was just like a simple story. So I would say, I'll be on set and say, hey, you say this, and let's see how we go, play it out. And my dad was being very supportive, you know. He also played like a part in helping me shape these little shorts. So by the time I was 12, I think I made like 5 to 6 little shorts. And then looking back on it, it was very cheesy. But at that moment in time, I was like, this is something that I want to do. So that little Sony recording camera did influence me to really want to continue on my journey in the film business and film learning as well. So yeah, I guess to answer your question, my dad was like a big influence as well. Like, he was very supportive. Like, he himself was in that industry of arts, so he kind of knows that this is not something that you excel in 1 or 2 days. This requires time and patience, and he was supporting me always along the way till now. He's still supporting me now, even though his art career has taken off. I do remember when I was little, he did taught me how to frame a portrait properly, so you can tell a story where your eyes should focus. So that's just one of the things I remember, by putting it into on camera, how to frame, because he was like a kind of like a DOP as well, with his visual way of telling a story through the camera. And he taught me how to take a photo, how to take a video properly, and to be able to tell a story, and mostly just make sure the focal point is in the middle, so you can tell the story better, and the audience can see the picture better. And so through art, passing it on to the camera, he did pass on a very good message for me when it came to filming a particular shot.
Awesome. And so that's after you left BFA, then you went on to work in the film industry in Australia. And so can you tell us a little bit of how it happened? Because I think you were also on the set of Fury Road, right?
Oh, it's a very long story. After graduation, I said to myself, oh, should I do another postgrad in America? Because they have really good film schools in America. Or should I come back to Australia? Or should I start working? And I said to myself, let's just start working for a year and a bit and see how we go. And if it all goes well, or if it doesn't go well, I still have time, you know, in my youth to go to a film school and do another postgrad. And then came, you know, what was supposed to be 1 year, it turned out to be 5 years. So before COVID in 2020, I worked on like TV series in China. I was a third AD on Detective Chinatown 3, that massive Chinese version of Sherlock Holmes. And that was like 6 months in Japan. And then we also shot in China and Thailand. And I said to myself, oh, this is really great to be able to work on a film set and with all these very creative people. I'll just keep going. And in China for a little while, and then COVID came. So COVID came, obviously, you know, during that time with lockdown, there wasn't any productions going on. And in Australia, I didn't know many people because my 2 years of working in China didn't translate to anyone I know in Australia. So come August, it was through a friend that I worked with before. So before, actually, you know what? When I was still at BFA, right after BFA, I worked on a movie in Queensland for 3 months, and then I went back to China and worked on second unit of Mulan and all those movies there. And it was someone from that production on Queensland that I got in touch. So like all these years had gone by, and I said, hey, is there any work for me possibly that you can introduce, you know, put my CV forward? And in Australia, you pretty much had to start from scratch. And she said, you know what? There's a production right now in Marvel called Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. Would you be interested in working on that? And I was like, of course, I would, you know, anything you can offer. And from then on, I got to working in the AD department. I started off as a lockup PA, as a PA. And I got to know the AD team, the head of the AD team really well. And in turn, they brought me onto Thor Love and Thunder, and that was in 2021. So that was 6 months of like being in that team permanently. And then Furiosa happened the year afterwards with a different team.
So you had all these experiences in movies, and then when you started on Furiosa, then you were also still on the production team, or were you doing something different on set?
No, I was still in the AD team, and I think it was my second full-time AD job in Australia. So this is 2 years ago. I was still kind of fresh, and in Australia time, I was kind of green. Still kind of getting to know like the Australian and the Hollywood way of working. So yeah, it does feel like yesterday, but at that time I was still pretty fresh.
And how was it like, you know, at the beginning working on such a big project?
Oh, I was such a huge fan of Fury Road and the original trilogy. Like, people think that Fury Road was the movie that started it, but like, I keep telling everyone, there is this really good trilogy starring Mel Gibson in the 80s that's like phenomenal, especially the second one. Like, you have to watch it. Like, I'm not just a big fan of his like Mad Max movies, like even his movies like Happy Feet. I remember watching it in my youth. Happy Feet, man. I was like, that is amazing. That is an amazing piece of storytelling, whilst at the same time telling the world to be aware of the situation happening, which is, you know, Babe. And that was really amazing as well. George Miller is a genius. He's able to do like R-rated like action movies to like a family-friendly movie. Like, you know, it's a very versatile director, very. And when I got asked by the second AD whether I want to be part of the team, I was like, of course, sign me up. Where do I start right now? I'll work straight away, you know. But sadly, like I was supposed to start on this particular day, but the day before my flight, I got COVID. So I missed a week's work of being up in Broken Hill because I had COVID. And I was like, oh, this is a good start.
And then when you joined the team, was it the very beginning of the shooting, or was some stuff happening already all around?
So the pre-production for us ADs was about, not including the first and second AD, most of the team have started about a month or two before we shoot. So the production was really looked after us really well. They made sure that we went to Broken Hill, where the original movies were shot, and settling in, getting to know the environment, because the set that we were shooting at, it was half an hour out of town. And it's one of the situations where as soon as you leave town, there was no reception. So you're really much on your own on this straight road. And you drive half an hour, and that's when you see all the signs saying park here, park there. And that's where you see like the war rig, the huge tent, the big tent with all the vehicles. And I'm like, yep, I'm officially in this world right now. It was really like amazing experience just to from the get-go. And yeah, production made sure that we got used to the surroundings at the very beginning. So that when it came time to shoot, we're pretty much ready.
So that means that once you're on location, you have no way to communicate with your phone to someone else.
Yes, that's why we had the thing called the radios, where our lovely radio PA gave out like almost, I think, a few hundred radios during that whole shoot, where that was our form of communication whenever we were on set. And I think it was such a beautiful blessing as well, because sometimes, I mean, you can be distracted by like a text from someone or like an Instagram thing, and you want to look at your phone. But because there was no reception and you couldn't see any messages until you drive into town, so your pure focus was literally on set, on the actors, and on Mother Nature, because we were out there pretty much early in the morning and wrapping like right around sunset, so you could see like infinite amount of stars in the sky, and like it was a beautiful feeling. Like it's not something like you experience like a lot in your life, and I thought that was, unforgettable.
That sounds amazing, man. Like I cannot imagine the notification that you must have gotten on your phone, like, your screen time have dropped like 300%.
And also like because you're walking a lot. On the WeChat steps count, I would always come first, because every day I was averaging like 30 to 40,000 steps, and everyone was like, "What are you doing over there?" I'm like, "We're just walking, we can't exactly sit because there's not many chairs going on, and 80s are supposed to stand." So yeah, that was literally me every single day in Broken Hill, just those steps. Yeah.
And could you walk us through a little bit more of like a typical day during the shooting?
Yeah, of course. So our three biggest locations were spread out over New South Wales. When I said Broken Hill, we shot that at the very beginning. So I think that was 6 weeks in Broken Hill. And we were there for like big scenes where we would shoot the car chases there. We would shoot a lot of the war rig scenes there, like the war rig slowly like coming in with surrounded by vehicles. And the second big location was literally back to Sydney, where we had this place called Kurnell Beach, which is, I think, south of Sydney, like half an hour from the CBD. And they have all these beautiful dunes, big dunes. And we managed to build a big set over there and do a lot of the scenes at the beginning with the motorbike. That was shot in Kurnell. And there was another big location at Melrose Park, where the big gates, remember the big gates of I think it was the gas town. So the big gate, they built this big gate and this little huge, like pretty much a quarter of gas town in that area. And then the rest was, I think, shot at, if I remember, Fox Studios, what is now called Disney Studios in Sydney. Yeah. So walk through the day. To answer your question, at the part of Broken Hill at the beginning, you would wake up at say 4:30 a.m. because a lot of the extras or the stunties that they need makeup, they need costume, and costume fitting can be half an hour because they're putting on all these like different bits and bobs, like a little helmet adjustments and stuff, and then they go into makeup, which makeup can take average from like 45 minutes to an hour and 30. So that's why we ADs, we have to be the first like ones there, and because production rented out all these vehicles, they literally rented out every single vehicle in Broken Hill. But there wasn't enough, so we had to do a lot of car sharing. So the whole crew was spread out all over town. So this location, that location. So in the morning, like 4:30 or 4:15, somebody will pick me up, and then we go pick someone up, and then we drive half an hour, like in the dark, mind you. There's no lights or anything, so it feels like nighttime, but it's like early morning, but it's in winter, and sun doesn't go up till 6. You arrive at the tent, and all the stunties and stuff and extras, if we have extras that day, getting changed and stuff. So you're making sure that that's all flowing well. There's no, delays. Because if there's delay from costume and makeup, that is going to affect us filming on set. So it was really at that time where I feel like our AD's job and opportunity was also getting to know these people really well, like being on their good side. So when push comes to shove, they're very cooperative. You don't want crew members or stunties that they'll take their time slowly because they have a grudge against you. So it was really like communication is key, and making sure that they arrive onto set on time. And once we're on set, that's where we ADs, it can be third AD or key set PA or cast PA, where everyone just assists each other. So making sure on set we have third AD and me, like we will like crowd and give thorough instructions on where the extras and stunties should be. So the first AD would say, oh, we want this shot, have all this and that, and it is our job to make sure we execute it, with all the extras. Yeah, and also like we had the cast PAs as well. Like I'm going off topic here. I'm saying what everyone in my team is doing.
It sounds like there's just so many things going on at the same time. I'm sorry. I wonder, like, do you guys have like different scenes? Like, for example, you would see in one day. First of all, I wanted to ask you, like, is George Miller directing all of the scene himself, or is he like splitting between different directors, like, I don't know, like unit directors that can do all the things while he's busy doing other stuff?
So we had this, George Miller had this very long-term collaborator, and he would be the second unit director, and they would have all the big scenes. You remember the Warwick chase scene during the movie, that huge 12-minute scene? That was shot in another town. That was shot in Hay. So George Miller would obviously direct every single scene in main unit, and it's pretty much all the time with the actors, and certain scenes we feel like it's crucial where George has to give them great directions as well. But whilst at the same time, the second unit would always send footages for George to review, and George, like during filming, would say, okay, this is good, let's just do this again, let's do another way. But because they've been long-term collaborators, the second unit director and him, like everything was gone very smoothly for them, And to answer your question, yes, like every big scene or every little scene, even the little details requiring the actors, George was there to direct it. Yes. And was he like taking naps between the takes, or like, because how do you do that when you're almost 80 and then? No, he was so focused. So a lot of the times, a majority of the time, he is in the bus, the director's bus, and he will look through the monitors. And we have this very, very one of the best first ADs in Australia named PJ Wharton. He will be making sure that everything is ready to go on set so George can focus on like the acting or like certain details of the shot, because George is also like communicating with the director of photography team in another transport right behind. So there wasn't a moment where he was always 100% focused. Like there wasn't a lapse of concentration. He was always on his A game. Yeah. And because he was so professional, in turn, we had to make sure that everyone else had to be extremely, you know, professional and on their A game, making sure that everything is in order. Because us ADs, one of my jobs as well is to communicate as well with other departments, along with the third, making sure that this is in order, that's in order, the camera team is ready. How, like, you know, we're about to shoot, so we have to go communicate with the camera team, and we have to go making sure that the props team are in set, you know. So again, a lot of communications with the ADs. It's for me, it's not just working and not just working with the background or the stunts, but also like with other departments as well, you know. And one of my jobs is like, you know, echoing what the first and the second AD are doing. So they would say, hey, let's make sure this and this is going on, and we go execute it with other departments.
Sounds like a lot of pressure on your shoulders.
Oh, I'm very fortunate because I'm in an AD team that is like, I don't say this a lot, but it is one of the strongest AD teams in Australia. So like everyone is very professional with a lot of experience. So at the beginning, like learning from them was like a huge, valuable lesson for me. But like later on, as you pick up your pace, you feel like the team itself, everything just flows very naturally. Yeah. Even when it comes time where there's a lot of pressure or where you feel like there's going to be a bit of tension, but because we know each other really well and we work with each other really well, so I think just dies down eventually, just because everyone knows each other really well.
Yeah, and I can imagine also that, you know, being on the same location for all that time, probably you guys become very close also.
Also, like something as simple as making sure all the coffee orders, like me and my other colleague, like we memorize everyone's coffee order so well. Like I know at this time, like such and such will want a coffee, such and such is hungry, or one of the cast, like the cast PAs, like they'll be like, oh, we know that the actors right at this time need like a sandwich. They need to eat early, you know. It's such a muscle memory. You just do it, and it's just like that every day for like 5 months. Even though me myself, I don't drink any coffee. Yeah.
So what do you get usually to get your day going?
We have our version of coffee. I don't know if they have in France. It's called flat white.
Oh, flat white. We use it for, it's kind of coffee here, but it's like coffee with no caffeine.
Yeah, it's a lot more milk, and like because I don't like to drink coffee, I normally stick with tea and a lot of water. Yeah, and for me, like at that time, we had the thing called crafties where there's a moment before lunch and we call it, what is it for you? Afternoon tea. Like there's all these like really delicious little foods like to go around. And it was at that time I realized, wow, it is very tough to eat properly on a film set. Because number one, it's always different times. Like you're always eating at different times. And once you're on set, you're always hungry. Or you're stressed out. And what happens when you're stressed out? You eat. So I did gain a few kilos at the very beginning, not from drinking coffees or stuff, but from those little crafty foods that was passing around, like a little cupcake or a little sausage roll or something. Yeah,
man, it sounds like the worst environment to keep a diet. But also you're like, because you're walking so much, probably you lose all the calories that you're ingesting. Walking
40,000 steps and you're driving, and like when it comes to rap, like you're kind of not in the mood to eat dinner, but like sometimes like your colleagues will say, hey, let's go out for a drink, let's go to the pub and something, and let's eat some food. And you'd be like, or fine. So you kind of get same impression, and then you go eat. So you would have like 4 to 5 meals a day. So luckily for me, I don't drink coffee, so I don't have coffee like on the side to top it all off. Like I just drink lots of water.
Do you have something that that comes out that comes to your mind when it comes to anecdotes, like maybe something unexpected that happened one day?
Yeah. So I spoke about the beginning of the shooting all in Broken Hill. So when it was, and now moving on to Kernell. So Kernell is sand dunes, but it's by the ocean. And what you have by the ocean is all these very big gusts, huge winds coming in. And if for some reason a storm is coming, we will be the first place to hit because we're right by the beach, And because we're by the dunes, there's all this sand blowing in your way, blowing in that day. So you pretty much get like sunburn like every single day. So this particular day, we can tell the storm was coming in. And we were not even halfway through the shooting yet. And George was, as calm as he is, even in those extreme situations, was like, good, let's keep shooting. And it was a very important scene, but because the wind was so strong, if we were told to go do something, like as soon as we start running, the wind would be so strong, we can't even move. And it was so loud, we could barely hear anything on the radio. So like half the time I was like, what? We're shooting? Are we shooting or not? What? What's going on? So, and it starts raining, pouring down. And then obviously the safety guy starts having like panic attacks saying, oh, what's going on? Like things are falling down. And one of the lights fell down and he one of our crew members, and it gave him like a semi little concussion. And like one of the big stands fell down, and it did a huge cut on our camera team's leg. So like on his leg, it was just bleeding. And one of the extras, like I don't know why, like suffered a seizure, like poorly at that time, suffered a seizure. And worst comes worst, like all these things happening right now, and storm's about to come in, and then we had to wrap like early at around 3 p.m. that day. I think the wrap time was 5:30, but we wrapped at 3 because like all these elements, like somebody fell off the generator because of the wind, and they landed flat on the ground, and we had to end up getting like the ambulance to come in. Like it was at that time so we had a lot of days where it was different elements, but at the end of the day, we all got through it. But that was one of the interesting stories, And what else?
Oh, man, that sounds crazy.
And at that time, at the beginning, you remember the opening scene with the peach tree?
Yeah,
the very first scene. So that was shot next to a gun range. But at that time, it was like we had like a week of rain, so there was all these leeches in the forest. So that was another interesting time as well, where we had our Lila Brown, the little actress, was like warning everyone, guys, I know about the leeches, but do not, I repeat, please do not kill any leeches. If you kill those leeches, I'll be very, very sad. We actually had this big scene where unfortunately it was cut in post, where the lead actress has this huge, enormous scene right by the tree. But unfortunately, I don't want to spoil it as well. That was cut out as well. Oh, another story I remember. So one of the good things about us ADs is sometimes before the actors go on set, we would put ourselves in that situation and to replay it for the camera. And one of my good colleagues, her name is Ruby, she gets nominated a lot to do these big scenes, to do these big trials. So the scene where, remember the circle scene where all the vehicles are doing circles?
Yes, I cannot forget this one.
Yeah, Ruby nominated herself and nominated herself saying, you know what, I'll do the running. So all the vehicles are doing the circle, and she's getting, dragged in that scene and running around. And whilst all the wind and stuff is blowing her, all the wind and the sand is blowing in her face, and she's still like, running, like literally like taking one for the team. And we're like, good on you, man, good on you. And because her body height was similar to Anya, So a lot of the scenes where, let's say, in the vehicle, before Anya goes on, like she would always like put on a pair of goggles and the mask and like do all that motions. We're like, good job, man, good job. So we'd always like screenshot saying, what do we have here? Anya 2.0.
And did they unleash the dogs on her, or it was the dogs?
The dogs, like in the story, it's like in the script, it's like very like vicious and like angry, like wanting to attack all the time. But like the real ones on set, they're like the loveliest dogs ever. Like you open the cage and they would come out and they would just sniff and be like the kindest dogs, literally. It's interesting. Like when you see the actual movie, I'm like, wow. The magic of post, the VFX team, they did a very good job. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. How do you make like very cute dogs become very scary? It's like, it must be very challenging. Yeah.
Very. And Anya herself, like, she is a very, like a great professional as well. But one of the things I find interesting is that during some scenes, when I worked in China, I'm not saying this just happens in China, but a lot of actors, when they're on breaks and stuff, they would just play on their phone. Like Anya, very interesting. Like rather than play on her phone, she would read. If you see on Instagram, like she would read, and then as we're about to go, she will put the book away and pretty much switch back into character straight away, which is like something very interesting, And then Chris Hemsworth had this really great work ethic as well. It's his first time playing a villain, so he'd be in a tent, like, literally like rehearsing, really like putting all his energy into executing this character well. Because I think most people, including, I don't know about you, but we agree that he was the best part in the movie. Like, this is really like not something we expect from an actor like him, because we know him so well as Thor.
Yeah. Yeah, it was really refreshing to see him in a character so unique. Yeah, it was very great. Yeah.
Good thing about George Miller is he's like the most patient director like I've ever worked with. Like he will never scream or shout. If Anya or Chris have any suggestions, he would like take in the suggestions and give his perspective. Like George is just like one of a kind when it comes to like directing actors as well. Like he wouldn't say things like, oh, that's not good enough. He would say, that's really good. He would encourages his actors really well. Like, that's good. Let's do another take. That's very good. Maybe do it this way. Let's do it this way. I think it's one of the good things about working, if you're an actor with him, is that you're blessed with all these opportunities to play around with your character, and he digs it.
One thing that struck me when I saw the movie in the theater was the word saga, which kind of like appeared on screen right at the beginning, like, and I was wondering if it was something that was in your mind while you were doing it, knowing that you were doing one piece of probably something that would become like a bigger puzzle.
I think the most memorable bit in Fury Road was Furiosa's character. Even though it was a Mad Max movie, but it was pretty much her movie. This prequel is a good story, is a storytelling that leads up to what she is in Fury Road, which is a bit... Do you remember there was a cameo, that particular cameo during Furiosa, be like that connects it to the world?
I saw that there is the car. I saw there was this like Mad Max shot. Yeah. So
to answer your question, the audience will know much more better of this world from the gas town, whereas Fury Road was more of an action movie, this one was more of a story of this Mad Max world, of what's going on, of what happened during like post-apocalyptic Australia. You have how certain bike gangs behave, how certain bike gangs survive on like the limited amount of water, on gas, on bullets. So I feel like if you watch this movie, you'll get a better experience, understanding of the Mad Max world, which will hopefully, if they decide to do another one, a better understanding of where this can take off next. Yeah, because this story does a very good storytelling of setting up the future world and explaining thoroughly why Furiosa is who she is in Fury Road.
Yeah, definitely, man. That sounds really exciting for the future. I really hope that this goes on. Do you mind telling us a bit more about your own personal project, like what's coming up for you next?
So I mean, after all these years of being in the AD team, there are moments where it does take you back to BFA days where we were all creative filmmakers. So I do want to start a few projects under my wing where, I mean, as much as I love working on those movies, there's only so much you can do, and it's their movies. So I want to get 2 out of the way this year. Not out of the way. I want to shoot 2. I have this one where I actually wrote way back in the BFA days, and I looked at it and I'm like, you know what? I could change this up a bit more and stuff, and change its setting and stuff to make it more local. And once I shoot those, I can start sending them to festivals and see how we go from there. But it's also like, you know, just remembering how I started when I was a 10-year-old with my dad's camera, you know, just to find that rhythm again. I mean, being in the AD team, I think the good part is that, number one, you're working and communicating with every single department. So you know when it's your turn to be a director, you know how long this will take, how long will that take. It's a better understanding, I feel like. And also, like, you're making all these friends, connections, and who will hopefully help you out one day if they like you enough. So yeah, I feel like it's a little bit of a build up for me. And so I guess my next project will probably be my own little short. And who knows, if a big Hollywood movie or an Australian movie comes knocking again, asking me to be part of their team, I would definitely say yes.
Great, man. Awesome. Sounds very exciting. I hope you manage to make either both or one out of the two, and that everything goes smoothly for you. One last thing I wanted to ask you for, you know, because I know that these days there are many people who are working in the animation industry in Montreal, even some in Vancouver, and you know there's so many layoffs with the Hollywood strikes and stuff. So I wanted to ask you a bit about how you see the situation in Australia, because I know that there's many people that are considering going to Australia right now. You know, people who've lived in Canada for some time. So how do you feel about that, and what would you say to a young fellow, you know, people who are like willing to come and work in Australia?
Definitely tell them first to just beware, even though Australia is an English-speaking country, but because it's so far away from America and Canada, it is something that you have to be aware and used to at the beginning. We have a industry here that's thriving. Like everyone, a majority of the crew I know are like very friendly and they work very hard. So, but also to make sure once you're over here to challenge yourself as well, and making sure that you give your all. Our industry right now, we do have a lot of Hollywood productions, which gives out a lot of jobs. So just like London, I mean, London have a bit more productions than us, but like we're similar to London, where a lot of productions are happy to take their films to not just Sydney, but like Gold Coast, Brisbane, Melbourne, like even like a movie last year in South Australia as well. So it's a very small community, but very hard community. So very hard-working community. So I would say if you want to come to Australia, by all means, come. We always, you know, could use an extra pair of hands to bring the movie together or the TV show together. Yeah,
man. I feel like you're going to see more and more people coming, definitely. After what's happening in, the Canadian industry, for sure there's going to be more people coming.
You get the standard weekend off, but you standard 10 hours. Like we have a union here as well. So don't worry if you're part of a union in Canada. We have a union down here as well that looks after people as well.
Thank you so much for sharing all the anecdotes and stories, and paying tributes to all the members of the crew. I know it must have been such a crazy, such a big scale project. So congratulations for the hard work and for the early mornings, and all the best for the future. Merci pour votre temps et si vous avez encore quelques secondes à m'accorder, pensez à mettre une note étoilée à ce podcast. Bonne fin de journée à toutes et à tous et à bientôt pour un nouvel épisode.